KWOD 106.5, Wallflowers with 6th Avenue Heartache. Before that, Simple Minds with All the Things She Said. I'm Alex Cosper, and in the studio with me right now, Ian Astbury, formerly of the Cult, now of the Holy Barbarians. How you doing?
Fine. Bit tired, actually.
All right.
Got up at 6:30 to fly up here to do the interview, so...
All right.
bit giggly.
Where are you based these days?
Los Angeles, London.
Okay.
Been on the road quite recently, quite a lot. Been out for like 6 months.
Okay.
So I had a 2-week hiatus.
You look a lot different than like in the 80s.
I hope so. I hope so, mate.
So,
it's 1996.
Yeah.
So, you evolve.
Okay.
Should have seen me when I was 11. I was a Bowie kid. I used to wear like purple flares, and I used to have like blue food colour in my hair. I was into like Ziggy Stardust and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always evolved.
So, do you think that through time you want to be more like yourself or more like other rock stars?
See, I've been doing this since I was like 17 or 18, so I've never really been conscious of being a rock star.
Okay.
Inverted commas. It's been my life. So, from the point where I was involved in punk rock, I used to work for a band called The Ruts. I used to follow a band called Crass. I was very much heavily involved in the punk rock community in England in the late 70s, like 14, 15, 16 years old. It's been my life, and I don't really consider myself to be a rock star or, you know, anything like that. It's a way of life for me, so...
Even when you were with the Cult?
No, not at all. I mean, the Cult for me was part of my life, you know. I mean, I think that it was the view of a lot of people that the Cult was some sort of like crass rock, you know, thing, and it was part of my life, you know. It was just what I was doing at that particular point in my life. I've done that and doing what I'm doing now, which is, I wouldn't say it's diametrically opposed, but it is much more progressive and maybe a little bit more harking back to the Love album in terms of originality, and certainly more left field as opposed to, you know, hard rock, which was what the Cult was thought of as in the late 80s, but that was more, I think, to do with the aesthetic image of the Cult, the fact that I had long hair and wore hipster leather pants and stuff. You know, people are quite... a lot of people can't look any further than the surface in a lot of things, and, you know, a lot of people don't have any...
Were you aware at that time that people might stereotype you as a hard rock band just by your looks? No,
because, see, the thing is, like I said, we came out of a long history of really independent music. I mean, when I was in some Death Cult, it was like 1981, started in that band. And 1981, anything that had guitars in it was considered to be moronic and crass, and you know, it really was. I mean, the kind of bands we had in England at that particular time were things like Spandau Ballet, it's the new romantic scene, a lot of keyboard orientated stuff, soft cell, etc. And we were playing guitars, and I was saying that my influences were things like, you know, late period Beatles, Rolling Stones, Doors, Hendrix, Velvets, MC5, Stooges, and that was all the music we weren't supposed to listen to as punk rockers, apart from the Stooges and the Five and the Velvets, but more like mainstream rock and roll stuff like the Doors and I guess a bit of Zeppelin, and people thought it was a major taboo, but I think that was the foundations of what a lot of the guitar bands came out of the alternative scene. I heard you playing Mother Love Bone before.
Right.
And they were like one of the most prominent bands in Seattle.
Right.
And I mean, their influence, I knew Andrew very well.
Zeppelin.
Yeah, it was very, very much Led Zeppelin orientated. But when you think about Zeppelin in the genre of the 70s music, they were quite a progressive band, although you actually listen to their records, some of the stuff isn't really that heavy. I mean, they had reggae on the records, they had like African influences that was more like traditional stuff, that, you know, like Moroccan stuff like Kashmir or whatever. It wasn't really heavy, it wasn't dark, black, moronic.
Right, a lot of it was acoustic.
A lot of acoustic stuff as well, you know, very crafted stuff. And they were radical for their day. That was like 75, 76 was their peak, you know, and things evolved now. Everyone's got like shorts, Vans, short bleached cropped hair, you know. Not me.
So you've never really bought into the idea of divisions in music?
No, not really. See, my big problem is that I've never been sort of set with a certain genre. When I have been pinned down, I've always moved on or evolved very naturally. The shocking thing for a lot of people, certainly in the alternative community, and I use that very loosely, is the fact that they think of me as some sort of like, you know, gross rock icon, you know, some sort of like geezer with like hipster leather pants and like long, you know, what can I do? I was in Vogue magazine when I was 24 years old, you know.
Right.
I mean, that was just what people want me to do, and I was quite into it. But musically, I mean, I was always pushing to do things a lot more progressive. Like I wrote The Witch in 1989.
I love that song.
You know,
and the Cool World soundtrack.
Yeah, it took me 3 years to get it recorded.
Yeah.
Which was part of the thing about the cult falling apart, was I was doing a lot more progressive stuff, and Billy was very much more into playing like more riff-orientated rock and roll stuff. And I was much more interested in chords and like working with like, you know, I was really into the rave community in England.
A more industrial sound?
Industrial, I wasn't trying to go for industrial, but I think because it was guitar orientated and I was using a lot of loops and stuff, it might have come across in that way. But it was more of just like taking elements that I was really into. Like I was really into the Mondays and Stone Roses, and a lot of the techno stuff was like Jack the Tab and Psychic TV stuff that was coming out. A lot of the late 80s rave stuff coming out of England, and trying to incorporate that and stuff. But in the cult, it just didn't work, because again, Billy was sort of more, he was much more sort of like going for the sort of classic rock, hard rock thing, and I didn't really want to do that. So it's taken me several years to sort of shake that off, and part of the thing is now that people are sort of going, oh, Holy Barbarians, that sounds like a bit of a heavy rock name. I said, yeah, but it's prefixed by holy, and it comes from a book about beatniks, and there's a lot of parallels between the beat community of the late 50s, San Francisco, and what's happening now in
Kerouac.
Yeah, Kerouac's the guy. I mean, you look at the lineage, it's basically, you know, Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, you know, Ginsberg, Buddhism,
William Burroughs.
You know, and the lineage of like, talk about the Wallflowers, you know, it's like Dylan meets Ginsberg, and Ginsberg teaches him about Buddhism, you know, then Dylan meets John Lennon, turns him on to tea, and the rest is history.
Right.
So it's like there's a lineage there between the beats and what's happening now.
I could see that. Well, what is that connection? Is it a deeper consciousness?
Yeah, most definitely so. I think it's an awareness of something other than just pedestrian activity, what was sort of force-fed by the media and television, etc. You know, maybe a bit more of a spiritual, something a little bit more elevating. Like you were saying, you don't like to listen to music that has crass lyrics.
Right.
And it doesn't really touch you. And I think that people are desperately, well, maybe not desperately, but I think people are a lot more intrigued by something that comes along that's got a bit more weight to it. And you can always, kids always know when something, when the people doing it are authentic. You know, you can tell. I mean, and I think that's what the thing about the beats were, they were authentic. And some of the stuff that's happening now is really authentic. There's a lot of throwaway. It's like, in the 60s there's the Beatles, and for every Beatles you had about 30 Herman's Hermits. So like now, I don't know, it's like,
now there's Oasis.
Now you got Oasis, and I mean, it's, then you know, it's kind of bizarre. But actually, England right now is on fire musically. It's phenomenal.
Right.
You've got things like the Prodigy, and the Prodigy are just genius. I mean, in America, I don't know what they'd make of them, but they're such. I saw them at the Phoenix Festival, the Sex Pistols, and they played in front of 80,000 people, and the whole place just went off. It was just insane. And there's no distinction there, because in England, hard rock is basically dead. You don't really see kids walking around with like denim jackets with like AC/DC on the back really anymore.
Okay.
You know, it's a very, very small social group. And
I think that's true here in Sacramento as well. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne had to cancel his show because he didn't sell too many tickets. So.
But then again, you know, I think that, I mean, AC/DC have definitely got the merits. You know, I mean, the fact that so many alternative, inverted commas, and use that term loosely again, are flocking around the KISS flagship goes to show you that these bands are very, very important in a lot of people's growing up and influence. So I think things are blending in a little bit more. And I think that, you know, it's time to sort of like stop the sort of, you know, our genre is better than your genre. Who really cares? At the end of the day, it's music.
It's got to be the best songs.
It's ultimately about songs. Precisely. It's about chord structures, arrangements, you know, originality, lyric experience, the artists, and that's, for me, is what I'm you know, actually the new Ozzy Osbourne song I think is quite catchy.
Okay.
Even though it's a bit throwaway lyrically, I think it's quite melodic and catchy, but then again, I like so many different kinds of music, so.
Now, getting back to the cult, don't you feel that you wrote some really spiritual lyrics back then?
The lyrics were coming out of a very confused young kid who'd been through severe hell growing up. I went through a lot of stuff in my family. Both my parents died of cancer, and I was in the army, and just a load of stuff. Perfect breeding ground for a dysfunctional human being. And out of that, there's a lot of pain, and I was very open about my sort of spiritual interest in Native American Indian philosophy and Eastern philosophies, and that came out in my lyrics, and came out in the way I dressed and my music, and I became a very easy target in a very conservative time, and still I found myself being a very easy target, especially in the British media. If they see me wearing something that's overtly influenced by the East, like for example I've been wearing sarongs recently, and they seem to think that's quite hysterical, that a man would want to wear a dress. And I'm just saying, I feel very comfortable in this, you know, and if anything, you can get your kit out faster than you can with trousers on, that's for sure. But that's just the way I've been. I've always been sort of on the outside, and, you know, where the band's at right now, this band, the Holy Barbarians, is a real authentic band. I mean, there's 4 people who are working together for the same thing. The Cult was cut off very early. I mean, our drummer died of a heroin overdose in the mid-80s, and the whole thing just went impossible to and then I got taken as a sort of a, you know, male bimbo sex symbol, and was just basically shoved through the grinder of being a, like you were saying before, I guess, rock star, even though I wasn't conscious of it until afterwards, you know.